What I'll do is we're going to have a very short panel. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves in a line. So if I were to say anything, I would say, I'm Wendy Robbins, producer director of The Marijuana Show. Seen by 10 million people, we've offered $20 million. So that's me.
Hello, Melinda. Hi.
Okay, let's just start with you. Again, you'll just say a short little thing about yourself, and then I'll go and I'll ask you all questions.
Perfect. I'm not sure if everyone can hear me.
Can you hear?
Perfect.
No?
My name is Robyn Rabinovich, and I'm the Vice President of Business Strategy at TerrAscend Corp. We're a publicly traded licensed producer on the CSE. I've been in the industry for 4.5 years now. Previously ran the marketing department for CannTrust, so got the opportunity when I started to deal with a base of 200 patients, and when I left, we were at 40,000 patients, a one-man marketing team behind that. I also worked on product development as well as international licensing, so helped them get their license in Australia with the ODC. A year and a half ago, I transitioned over to TerrAscend. My main role starting off was to acquire our sales license. We were sitting with a cultivation license. Industry average at that time was around 400 days, and we were able to obtain it within 200 days. So really quick through the licensing process. Since then, my main role has been transition the company over to the Cannabis Act from the ACMPR, really strategize what that means for the company, as well as procure all of our product for both medical and adult use. So we're currently in Nova Scotia, PEI, BC, and Ontario.
Okay, so as the moderator, what's so cool is I get to stop people, not to be rude, but it's going to be a one-liner.
Okay.
So I'm the
That was a
producer
couple.
director of The Marijuana Show, seen by 10 million people on Amazon Prime. Next. Why? Because we only have a half hour, right? And you're here to learn value from these incredible women. So, next.
Hi, I'm Rosy Mondin. I'm the CEO of Quadron Canatech. We became a publicly traded company on the CSE in January of 2017. We're in the extraction space. We've spent the past 3 years basically working on R&D and building extraction equipment and figuring out all the equipment that's needed to create the value-add oils at the very end. I also started a Cannabis Trade Alliance of Canada, and we were very busy with working with the federal government on Bill C-45 as well as the provinces. I'm also, actually, one thing I should say is by virtue of the fact that we were listed in January of 2017, I'm the first woman CEO of a publicly traded cannabis company in Canada, which makes me the first woman in the world to lead a publicly traded cannabis company, Potstock.
That's awesome. Yeah, right? So I would have started with that line. So what you can tell about women is we don't necessarily listen to instructions because we're badasses.
We like to talk.
And we like to do our own thing, which is awesome. So let's see what happens next.
I'm going to really try.
My name's Paull. I'm married to Wendy Robbins. We've been together 13 years, and I'm the executive producer of The Marijuana Show.
Boom.
That was good. That was well done.
Slam, right? Okay.
Dorren McMorran. I am the co-founder of Ovation Science. We went public on Friday, and I'm also the VP of Business Development.
Yeah. Yay. Okay.
I am Melinda Rombouts. I am the founder, CEO, president of Natural Medco and Even Co. We went public earlier on this year in June, and we have a greenhouse in southwestern Ontario and have our production, extraction, and sales license.
This is great. So, yeah, applause is good. Why not, right? So what's interesting is I just read that there's 90 licensed producers listed by the Health Canada and 19 in BC. Men run all the companies, and only 5% of women have a board seat. So we get to change that. You're already seeing here powerful women that have exceeded that. But I want to ask, why do you think that is, and what qualities do you think that women CEOs or COOs have that men typically don't, that men may be overlooking, period?
Empathy.
Oh, empathy, all right.
Well, I think if we look at the underground market, there actually are a lot of women who are in this space. They've been making a lot of topicals and salves and basic rudimentary type of cannabis products for many, many, many years. Why I worked on Bill C-45 was actually to transition a lot of those growers and producers from the old medical production, personal production space into the new roles. So I think as we move forward and fighting for the licensing categories that we see today will create a lot more opportunities for women, I think, to come in either as entrepreneurs or to just come into the space as employees. I think we have to remember, we keep hearing a lot of times people are saying, oh, you're too late, it's the industry is already going, and I say that's complete bullshit. It's just started. If we take a hockey analogy, we're like 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the first period. So I think it's really important, especially as men, there's a lot of unconscious bias that happens. So I think when we're looking to women or you want hiring practices, just start with at least a good diverse slate of applicants, and then you choose your best applicant from that. But I think if we just start pushing to have that slate, we'll be able to bring more women in. And reminding women that it's not just about, you don't have to just be the farmer. I mean, you can be in marketing and branding, in engineering, science, law, it doesn't matter. The industry is just starting, and it's going to be bringing in all the under industries to feed into it, just like any other operating industry that exists out there.
I think we also offer collaboration. In our company, The Marijuana Show, we joint ventured with a woman who has 8 children, and we created Club Hemp, which is a CBD brand for women. And I think collaboration is something that women, I think we're a little bit more, natural with, the ability to reach out to partners, even competitors, and bring them into the fold to see how we could grow together. And I think that's something that we offer as a gender.
Totally, it's a female plant. She is providing all of us with a great living, and there is something about working together in collaboration and remembering your why. Why are you in this industry? All of us are coming from it, money! But I haven't heard anyone talk about empathy, like you mentioned, or why are we here? How many patients are we here to serve? So a woman, it seems to me, when I talk with women, we'll typically talk about that first. We'll talk about the money too, but we've got that going for us. So
we all want to make money.
And also,
that's why we're doing this.
We all also obviously want to make money. No doubt about that. But there is a reason why we're all getting up. And also branding. Women, we're 80, is it true in Canada? 80% of the buyers are women? That is true in America. 80% of the buyers typically are women. So good to know.
So
Is that true?
it's around 65% in Canada, so definitely understanding the need to focus on women being somewhat of the gatekeeper as we look at the adult use category. I think it's important to look at this industry in having 2 avenues, but a lot of area in between. So we have the purely medicinal aspects of what this industry could be, where we're going to treat this like an API, an active pharmaceutical ingredient. We have the adult use category that we're going to treat this like any other ingredient, whether it's beverages, edibles, whatever the case may be. We understand that our industry has to adjust to serve the needs of those segments, as opposed to those segments adjusting to serve cannabis. And I think the main component in the middle, which is this wellness category, I think speaks extremely strongly to women as well as men. I don't like to just focus on women when we're talking about the cannabis industry. That's all of us. It's just important that we look and make sure that women have a place to actually participate. But I think when we're looking at this wellness category, we have a ton of opportunity to really understand the driving need behind the use of cannabis, and understanding even though you may be using this for recreational purposes, you might have an intention to get some relief or an intended effect behind it. So really connecting those, providing that information to the buyer or the purchaser, which so happens mostly to be women, in the right format.
And and seeing women, like normalizing it too. I've been a cannabis consumer for over 20 years. You know, I'm not that stupid pothead stoner, I've been very successful. I'm a lawyer. I did very well in school. So I think having women come out and just showing that we're the normal faces, and then we can relate to women and bringing them to feel comfortable about this product as well is really important.
Ditto. And I'd love to hear from our other panelists as well.
If they have something to say, otherwise I have other questions as well.
We have 2.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We have 2 women on our board, and quite honestly, it wasn't a gender decision, it was a credential decision. And I think that we have to have that kind of mindset, and having more women on boards will bring in more women on boards in cannabis companies.
I agree. And I think it's a lot about just being open-minded, and we recognize the strengths that women bring. So we have a different view.
So some of you have gone public, you mentioned that. I'm just wondering, what would you recommend to companies that want to go public, how to prepare?
Be careful where you put your first money that comes in. Your first money is your hardest to get, so it's always interesting when deals come by me or people that want to work with us and they're investing all their most expensive money into, say, the building, which is the passive asset, which will, of course, increase in value over time, but you want to get to revenue. And so revenue, I mean, we've been banging this revenue drum for years. The valuations that we see out there have been insane. As we know, the markets are very emotional, so it's been very volatile. So I think just stay the course, don't focus on that stock price, and just get to revenue is so important.
Yeah. I really think that focus aspect is a huge component when going public. You have a lot to handle when you're just dealing within the cannabis industry and all the changes that come of it. I mean, look at Ontario, for example. We just saw a new set of regulations that came out on Friday, and they're to be submitted on the 17th. So I think we're already dealing with a lot of new information, new regulatory platforms that come down. So just understand what it means to go public and how much resources you actually have to invest in that.
And professionals. Can't do it all yourself.
I think that preparation is definitely the key, that you have to be very well aware. This industry goes 100 miles an hour all the time. It's changing so quickly. You have to be very aware of where the direction that it's going and also your cash flows and exactly, where you want to direct your company is the number one thing that you have to be on top of.
I would also just say where you want to list is extremely important, just for cannabis companies in particular. My company is strategically listed on the CSE, and that is so that we can go after business in the US. So I think depending on what your business strategy is, find the right platform for that, but do understand what flexibility and freedom you have by selecting different opportunities to list on.
Cool. And what's the best advice a mentor has ever given you? And now you can mentor everybody here.
The best advice a mentor has ever given me is trust your instincts. Because we actually had a company offer us $20 million. And this was a guy with an oil and gas background. He seemed really great. We did more due diligence and we found that he was absolutely a mobster. And with a criminal background. So do your due diligence, but trust your instinct, because I had a light go off. Another reason women CEOs are, I think, profoundly superior in some levels to men is the instinctual bell that goes off. The women really have that intrinsically built in. So trust your instincts. I would say number one.
What other advice have you all been given?
I would say don't give up. It will happen because I know going public, that's sort of the topic, is something that will take much longer than you think, but you will get there. And that even negotiating deals, it always takes longer than you think, so don't give up.
And surround yourself with experts. You can't expect to do it all yourself. We always say that we're kind of the Avengers. We all have our superpowers. And that's especially true when you're going public. Just make sure that the superwoman syndrome as a woman, get rid of that. You can't do it all, and either as a man, you can't do it all. So surround yourself with experts.
I would say the biggest piece of advice that I've received over the last couple of years is particularly for a younger woman being in a leadership position. I was always worried about stepping on other people's toes. Being in this strategy role that kind of touches on a number of different departments, I was always cautious of that. And my CEO's response was chop them off, keep moving, right? So don't be so cautious about where you're always stepping, whose role you're working within. If something needs to be get done, particularly in this industry where we're all kind of bootstrapping startups, just get it done and keep moving.
Yeah, totally. What about valuations? And I mention that because what I notice is Canadian valuations are like uber high. American valuations are really low compared typically to Canadian valuations. Tilray and some of the others that are really big, I just look at the valuations and I can't understand it. It just doesn't make sense to me. What do you guys, when you're either investing or being part of a company or you're looking at a company, how do you work with valuations? What makes sense and what doesn't? And is there formulations that you use when evaluating a company?
I want to jump in and just say I've looked at thousands of deals. And typically in the cannabis space in the US, I've seen valuations at 10x to 20x revenue. I think it'd be more realistic to see 2 to 3x. And I think it'd be really nice to actually, if you say you're a chocolatier and you're going to make a multi-million-dollar chocolate company, that you've made one chocolate, at least. So I personally think that the industry is becoming more competitive. It's better to have a viable product and a revenue stream and IP, real estate, and some really scalable items on your balance sheet before you can actually start claiming you're worth $10 million. Have something to actually quantify that.
So we kind of look at it for a number of different fronts. When we're looking at Canadian opportunities, I think it's important to understand the valuation is connected with the international opportunity. That is hard to actually put a number down as more and more countries are coming online. The way that we look at assets both in the US and in Canada is understanding if it's in a limited license state or environment. So understanding some of the barriers to actually enter that particular market, and then understanding what IP might be able to be brought across multiple jurisdictions, independent of the Farm Act coming down and us understanding exactly how we can, transfer even CBD products in the US. I think we can look outside of that and look at some of the opportunities at that IP level to share knowledge across the board.
Yeah. So what else do you look at? What makes you invest in a company?
Strong management team and ability to execute on the business plan. Absolutely. I mean, going back to the valuation, there's a lot of financial engineering that's been going on. Again, when I say the industry's barely started here in Canada, we don't even have the concentrates yet, which we expect to be around the end of summer. So I think a couple of years after that market opens up, we're really going to be able to understand what the whole industry is really all about when we have more licenses coming out, for sure. I think that's going to be a big difference.
What else? What you guys? Ability to scale, obviously.
Definitely the team. Is there any IP in place? What is the potential reach of this company? And are there greater opportunities with this company?
And I invest in the person. At the end of the day, if I see 1,000 companies, I have to like the person because it's a marriage. It's a relationship. We're part owners of a CBD farm. Love the guy. So, because you're going to be with them, I would say at least 3 to 10 years before an exit. You want to say 2 years to 3 years, but it's really 3 to 10 years. Just do your homework, love the person you're in bed with, do your criminal background check, make sure that they're as clean as they seem they are.
Well, and that's important because it's easy to unwind a deal, but it's not so easy to unwind a partnership. So you really want to make sure you go in with the right people.
Totally. Yeah, have a good attorney, obviously, good accountants. And like that. What I've seen is I can give somebody, $1 million or millions of dollars, and if there's not a system for optimal efficiency, they tend to blow it. Have a $250,000 party, like woohoo, party, and you're no, bad use of money. Do you all mentor other people that you work with on how to optimize efficiency? Is that something that you all do in terms of whether it's grow, cultivation?
Oh yeah, it's
anything?
nonstop on our mind. We're in the extraction space. We build machines and we set up extraction facilities. And one of the things is not only do we just make the machines, we actually use it. So we know it's all about getting growers to ROI. It's all about ROI, of course, your return on investment. So getting into the money is important and getting them up and going fast and being efficient. So not only for us, it's the equipment efficiency, it's getting rid of the bottlenecks, making sure you have all the right equipment, making sure it's energy efficient, making sure it runs properly, it's all of that. So continuously automating and innovating is also key to this industry.
I agree. And R&D.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts to that? Because I'm seeing people, the burn rates are crazy. Are you guys experiencing that too? Are you seeing burn rates that are insane?
Yeah, I think
Everyone's sort of looking blank-faced.
I think it's sexy.
You're not there. I don't know.
I think it's sexy to be frugal. And I think that's another thing that women offer to a company is that I think we're a little more frugal because we're usually the shoppers. We're the ones who actually know how to spend the money and how to balance the balance sheet. And I just say that because, if you get your first $1 million investment, like you said, someone spent a bunch of it on a party, you want to consider maybe a Best Western over a 5-star hotel. You don't want to burn through all your money before you get your next raise.
Your shareholders' money.
And your shareholders' money.
At the end of the day, it's your shareholders. So
exactly.
Do they want to see me flying around left, right, and center on first class when I should be focusing on the business?
Yeah, buy your jet after.
Let's get to revenue. It always comes back to revenue.
Revenue, no doubt. So, are there things that, for instance, are most people out here investors? Are you currently investing? It's okay to raise your hand, I won't bite it off. Okay, so a couple of you are. What do the rest of you do? I'm just curious. AI? Oh, cool. That is really interesting, actually, to me, which brings me to another point, which is trends. Trends that you're seeing that are worthy of investment. Trends that you think the places are going. So, for instance, in America, cultivation is not necessarily where I would invest right now because it's such a commodity, it's going straight down. But if there's innovation, that would be interesting. What about y'all? What are you seeing?
I think we're starting to see a turn to focus more and more on brands. Understanding in Canada that a brand is quite limited in what it can do and what it communicate, we are seeing this new turn of brands and retails, right? Previously, whenever you looked at an investment deck, when you went to investor presentations, it was all based on a cost per square foot and what you can obtain with that given facility. I think especially since the Cannabis Act has been provided and the licenses have now been segmented, we understand that we do not have to cultivate to be a substantial player in this market. So understanding how that now shift has taken on and looking forward to what the regulations will allow us to do in terms of new product format. And I don't like to use the word trends because that's generally temporary. I think it's more so different segments within the market that we can actually go after and own.
Well, I think too, in brand, because brand movement is really the biggest play, right? So how do you get brands across the water to international jurisdictions? And it's lining up those partnerships to be able to do that. But in order to get there, you still need innovation. You need to stay on top of the bell curve on this and in processing eventually, because again, this is a highly tested product. We're putting out to the commercial market. It's not that underground where you voluntarily just go buy it from your friend. So we're putting out to consumers, so it has to be clean product. And in clean, to me, I start thinking automation. What I'd love to see is, as a processor, is you have a panel of your computer screens and the person who's doing the processing is controlling it all, and all your processing is done behind glass, right? And it's all automated all the way through, not only because you're getting rid of human error, but now you're also getting rid of any contamination risk. So that, to me, is I see automation, and automation ties into the brand movement, going global.
Yeah, I definitely think IT is where a lot of investors are going, where I'm looking point of sale. There's a lot of point of sale operators, but tying into your, QuickBooks and everything tying together into one system so that we don't have to have all these secular systems that don't necessarily communicate. I think that's the next phase because it's really about automating and consistency because we can't all keep track of everything all at once. So that's what I'm seeing. Standardization, also sustainability, a more green-powered, not butane. Energy efficiency is a really big investment target.
I think so too. I can't seem to find it, but I do appreciate it for sure. What do you two think?
I would think one of the biggest trends for us that we're seeing is globalization. So, we complain a lot about Health Canada and how difficult they've been on us as LPs, but really they have set us up to be world leaders as far as supplying medicinal worldwide. So we're seeing all these markets opening up and to really take advantage of that, especially we're one of the larger LPs in licensed square footage, so we actually have that supply to be able to do that. So we see that as a really exciting opportunity.
We're a little bit different than the other people up on the panel because we are in an ancillary market. We don't touch the leaf. Our licensees are the ones that touch the leaf. And I can tell you from the beginning, even just finding packaging it has been difficult. And having suppliers in the United States, because obviously we launched in the United States, our topicals, not yet in Canada. And finding suppliers that will deal with the cannabis industry has been very interesting and has been quite the challenge. And so I can see those markets growing for sure.
Okay. And what about, you mentioned that, so how does an American company with ancillary products be able to sell up to Canada? Are there certain distribution outlets, certain software, no, not yet.
Partnerships.
So someone developed that.
Who's going to develop that out here? Somebody develop it. It makes sense. In the States, it's still tricky. It's difficult to get your product out to be able to scale.
Personally, I'd like to see our Canadian brands have an opportunity to evolve before we start bringing in American brands, but that's me.
No,
I'm sorry, I really want to see we've got huge opportunities for Canada right now, and you hear some LPs wanting to bring up US brands, we've got so many brands already in Canada. There's been a lot in the underground market. We need to bring them over. We need to transition them over and push Canada made. This is a Canadian, we're the first G7 country to do this in the world, and we have such a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. No, I totally agreed. Does anyone have questions out here? Anybody have a question for the panel? Yeah.
Who loves Mary's wellness?
Oh, yeah.
Love it all.
We've spoken.
Yay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mary's medicinal. Excellent.
Yay.
Yes, it does.
Excellent. Anyone else have a question? Did we do such a great job that you're complete? Wow. All right. Well, we rocked it.
Invest in women leaders.
Yeah. Is there any questions you all have for one another, or anything you want to know about?
I would just say to the men in the audience, do you guys, looking at women CEOs up here, in your companies, when you look at your overall structure, your hierarchy, your graph, would you consider having more women in your company than you currently have, or could you please raise your hand? Yes, here.
Okay.
So, to our surprise, as of last Friday,
Could you stand up, please?
our surprise as of last Friday, women outnumbered our men 2-1.
Oh, wow.
I know that number, but it had nothing to do with male, female, it has nothing to do with ethnicity, religion. It's pure 100% competency. Either you're competent or you're not. I don't give a rat's ass who you are, what you are, where you're from.
That's awesome. So I really love that answer. And then when I saw the decks, I invariably saw, and I don't know if you all saw that too, the majority were all men. Usually, typically, white men, a lot of them. And so I'm just wondering, I like your answer a lot, but is that what most people feel? Yeah?
Just a comment again. I think you're going to see a lot of differences with the millennials, Generation X, with their hiring practices, and you will from the baby boomers and those above the baby boomers. So, again, it doesn't matter about your sex, your race, your religion, anything. It's just really, it's a generational thing.
Sure, but
once it weeds its way out, everybody's going to be equal, hopefully, by the end of the day.
But the culture has to come from the top. So it has
That's
to come
right.
from the executive suite. So that's why I was saying about hiring the best person, but ensuring that you at least have a good slate of diverse applicants to choose from in the first place.
Right. And not having the excuse of, well, I'm a boomer, so I'll just wait until somebody younger comes in. It's sort of like, we need to look around to really hear, and especially since the majority of the women are your buyers. So having that input makes sense. And the way we process seems to be different too, I would say, right?
Yeah,
So-
dispute resolution, all of that.
Yeah, for our company, we're mostly women, and then we obviously have men as well. So, but the decision makers are women, just because we didn't see that available to almost every company that we talked with. So,
Oh,
yes.
there's one question
Oh,
there.
yeah. Sorry, can she ask and then you ask? Yeah. Great.
So I'm Sarah Roman. I founded one of the original licensed producers in this country in 2012, and I have a ton of respect for this panel here because I know all of you ladies, or most of you ladies. One thing I do think, I don't need that. You can't hear me, then I will talk louder. So one thing I do think is it's really on women and whether it's men or women, is that we need to also be founders. We need to step up. So it's on you, Rosy and.
Thank you.
So we need to be looking at founders, we need to be looking at those executive positions and the board positions as well, because we have a lot to bring forth with that, and it's all about experience. There's no reason that there should be any gender, any race, one or another in a brand new industry that's just started. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but I just want to say thank you to everybody in the room who does the right thing at the right time. It's absolutely not gender. It's a gender neutral role here, and it's the fire does the best.
And you're going to work hard no matter
Right.
what your gender is. Let me tell you, this
Yes.
is most of the professionals. Now, I've been in that situation where I've been the only woman in the room, where I've been at the long table, a CEO dinner, and it's me. And it's 15 men down one side and 15 men down another.
Me too.
Now, I don't feel uncomfortable about it. It's great, and I'm just so honored and proud to be a part of this industry. But it doesn't matter, like I was saying, you're going to work hard, you're going to work your ass off, and most of the professionals I know, men or women, are saying this is the hardest that they have ever worked in their whole entire career. However, also also being the most career satisfying that they've ever done.
I also want to echo what Wendy said earlier, which is true. As far as the plant, it's a female plant. So we're all surrounded by this female plant that we're using and processing, and we should honor that by having more women employees. So if you're considering hiring more women, I highly encourage it.
And I think another area for us to continue to focus on when it comes to women's involvement is international opportunities. Where I find myself as the only woman in the room is generally when it comes to events, whether it's in Germany or Israel or wherever the events may be. And there's gonna come up times where I'm with a group of men, and for whether it's cultural or religious reasons, they're comfortable shaking the men's hand, but aren't comfortable shaking my hand. That's a reality of what we're gonna face, and I don't think that stops us from doing opportunities and getting out to these international jurisdictions, but that is something that we have to be aware of, and it's something that we have to push forward.
And I'm okay with being underestimated. That's okay.
Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah. Underestimated, it's interesting.
It happens when I was a lawyer too. You know, I'd always be mistaken for the assistant or the secretary, and then that's okay. Come out and wow them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. You know, it's funny because we manage a fund and I can be with a man, and invariably a man will always look at the man, and so he's the decision maker. And it's like, hey, no, you know, you need to start looking over this way.
Yep.
But it is fascinating, there's an automatic assumption that if it's a managing director, it's going to be a man, and that's who you're going to want to talk to. So knowing that, we have some minority partners that are men, I will bring them to the meeting with the understanding, feeling fully confident of who I am, but I get that the man will talk to the man. And if that dude is going to close it for me, go for it.
It's fun.
When we get to know each other better, they'll know my worth and value, but for now it's a really odd thing.
We call it the bromance factor.
Yeah, the bromance. What else? Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up. You had one question, then we wrap it up.
I was just curious. We might have to do how many women on the panel are members of the board of the public companies that they work for? Raising?
We're not public. We're holding out.
Two women who sit on the public boards of capital companies in the cannabis industry.
And an advisor of a public company as well.
Yeah.
So anyone else in the room?
Anyone else?
All right, I think three. I think there's six in Canada total. Employees, patient outreach and marketing people. Put them on your board.
Yep. Yeah, California is making it mandatory, actually, that you have to have a woman on your board.
I wanted to add that I'm in the cannabis industry. I'm a founder and CEO of my own company, Mary's Wellness. And I am a mother of 6 children. That includes 4 girls and 2 boys. And I simply just want equality for the future of my children, both for my girls and my boys. As simply as that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult.
And on that note, thank you very much.